Okay, this is another video that I am doing as a request from one of my students, but I know that there's a lot of people, I'm still seeing skip counting and things like that, and I want you to have this on a video so that you can see how you can actually do your multiplications, your times tables in your mind, so that you can remember them always. Okay, so we're going to start with the ones are easy because it's just, well, we'll start with the zeros. So 7 times 0, anything times 0 equals 0. Why is that? Because 7 groups of nothing, 0 is nothing, so 7 groups of nothing is nothing. If I say, oh my gosh, I have 1,000 groups of nothing, what do I have? Nothing. So that's why it's always nothing. It's always 0. Okay, that's that one. Then we have times 1, 7 times 1. Now that 7 times 1 is just one group of 7. If I say I have one group of 8 things, then how many things do I have? 8. So one group of 7 is just going to be 7. And a lot of people use the analogy of looking in a mirror. The 7 is looking in a mirror and it sees itself. Okay, so those are, so anytime you have a 1, it's just itself. It's the same exact number, okay? Whatever you're multiplying by 1 is the other number. Okay, so then we go to the 2's, and we have 2 times 8, let's say. Okay, 2 times 8. So this is where when we get into the 2's, it's important to know your doubles. So if you know 8 plus 8, you know that's 16. So then you know that this is 16 because it's just 2 groups of 8. And this is one group of 8, that's another group of 8. So it's just 16. 2 groups of, make that better, 2 groups of 7 would be 14. And we know that because we know that 7 plus 7 equals 14. Okay, so if you are having a hard time and you're just counting up, you have 2 times 8 and you're just like, oh, let me put 8 fingers and then count by 2's, and you're like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Okay, that is taking too much of your time. So you need to just practice your doubles. You should know these. 2, let's start with the ones. Okay, start all the way from the beginning. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay, 3 plus 3 is 6. 4 plus 4 is 8. 5 plus 5 is 10. 6 plus 6 is 12. 7 plus 7 is 14. 8 plus 8 is 16. 9 plus 9 is 18. And 10 plus 10 equals 20. Okay? So just practice those. Write those down and you will remember them. And it's not a lot to memorize. Okay? This is something that will help you. So then when you do your 2's, if you see 7 times 2, you know that's 14. If you see 9 times 2, you know that's 18 because you know your doubles. Okay, so that's the doubles is really the biggest part into just knowing your 2's. If you know your doubles, you know your 2's. Okay, so practice those up to 10, from 1 to 10. And most of these you already know. So there's not a lot more to learn here. Okay, so you guys can do those and you will never have to skip count by 2 because you'll just know these. Okay. Then when we do the 3's, okay, 3 times, let's say, 9. Okay, so when we do 3's, the 3's really are something that we really have to, we just kind of have to learn them. Okay, there's the 3's are like that. Which other ones? The 4's are, you can do so, but it's really just the 3's that you have to know, and the 7's are the most ones that and the 8's are the ones that you have to know the most. You can do some tricks. For example, if you have 9 times 3, you know that 9 times 2 times 9, you know that's your double, so you know that equals 18. So you can add one more 9 to that, okay, because you have 2 groups of 9 here, so you can add 3 groups of 9. And then you can just do 18 plus 9 to get 27. But to me, when the numbers are starting to get big like that, it starts to get confusing. So I would rather you just write them down. Okay, so for the 3's, you do 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 equals 6. 3 times 3 equals 9. 3 times 4 equals 12. And you should know these. And I don't want you to know them in a skip counting way. So if you're not writing 3 times 1 equals 3, 3 times 2 equals 6, then you're not learning it in that manner. If you just do 3, 6, 9, 12, then that's what you're learning. You're learning skip counting. And then when you just see something like 9 times 3, you're just like, oh gosh, I have to skip count all of that. 9 fingers, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27. And then you know, you're just learning the skip counting way, and that's taking you too long. So you have to just know your threes. Those are one of the ones that there's not a lot of tricks with. You just have to know them, okay? So just try to write them down just like I was doing here. 3 times 5 equals 15. 3 times 6 equals 18. But if you do need a little bit of a trick, the only trick that there is with this one is just getting your 2's. So if you have 3 times 3, doing 3 times 2 and knowing that that is 6, and then because this is 2 groups of 3, then adding one more group of 3, which is just adding 3, and then getting 9. So you can do this way as well, okay? If you already have three groups of 4, then you do, what is 2 groups of 4? That's 8. So if I add one more group of 4, that's 12. So you can do that, but I would recommend just knowing them like this. It will make your life so much easier. So write them down over and over, just like I told you to do with your doubles, and you will learn these, okay? Okay, the 4's. 4 times, which one should I do? 4 times 3, okay. 4 times 3 equals 12. The 4's are really similar to the 2's, except that they're skipping some. So if you look at the 4's, for example, you look at 4 times 2, it is 8. So it's like counting, okay, I'm going to show you. It's like doing 4 times 1 equals 4, 4 times 2 equals 8, and 4 times 3 equals 12. So it's like doing 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. But it's skipping one of the numbers. See, so skip the 2 here, the 6 here, the 10 there. So it's just 4, 8, 12. So you know that when you're doing the 4's, it is going to be an even number at the end. So you know that's going to happen. But the 4's, the easiest way to solve a 4, if you don't know your 4's times tables, is to actually subtract one group of the number. Subtract one group of the number from the 5's, because the 5's are so much easier. Okay, that if you have 5 times, let's say, 5 times 3. Okay, we know that 4 times 3, that's 4 groups of 3 equals 12. Well, we know 5 groups of 3 equals 15. Okay. So if we don't know what 4 times 3 is, we know 5 times 3 is 15, and that is 1 more than 4, so you can just subtract a 3, and that will give you the 12. So that's a trick for the 4's, because the 5's are pretty easy. But like I said with the 3's, I would also, this is a good trick if you've forgotten, but I do want you to just kind of practice them, write them down, know them. It'll be so much better for you, and then if you ever need this trick, you can do it. So like I said, the 5's are pretty simple. If you know your 5, if you know 5 times 3, but you do not know 4 times 3, then you just do 5 times 3, and it's 5 groups of 3, and this one's 4 groups of 3. So since it's one less group of 3, then you just do 5 times 3 equals 15, and then you subtract that one group to get you to 4 times 3, and you'll get the 12. Okay, so that's how you can, that's a little trick for the 4's if you've forgotten. Okay, the 5's, are, I really like the 5's because the way that I do it is I always, if it's an even number, this is how you do the 5 so that you can remember it always. if it's an even number like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, those are all even numbers. So if it ends in an even number, okay, that's an even number, 2, 4, 6, 8. It has to be a multiple of 2 to be an even number. So if this is an even number, which it is, then you can take half of this number, which is 8, half of 8. If you have 8 things and you're going to split it in half between you and a friend, then you guys each get 4. So half of 8 is 4, okay? And then, since it's an even number, we just add a 0 to the end, so it's 40. So if we do 5 times 4, it's the same thing. This is an even number that we're multiplying by 5. So we just do half of 4 is 2 and add a 0. Another even number, 5 times 6. 6 is even, 2, 4, 6. And we do half of 6, and that gives us 3. We add a 0. Okay, so that's how you can do the 2's really nicely. Now, if you have a number that's not, it's not an even number, then 7 is not an even number. Okay, so what you can do is you can do the number below it. Okay, so you can do what's 6 times 5? That would be 30, right? Because half of 6 is 3, and then we add the 0. So then, since 7 is just one more group of 5, you just add the extra 5, so 35. So all of the odd numbers that you multiply by 5 are going to end in a 5. All of the even numbers that you multiply by 5 will all end in a 0. So if you have 9 times 5 equals blank, and you don't know what that is, well, what's 8 times 5? We know that half of 8 is 4. So, and this is an even number, so it just ends in a 0. So we know that that's 40. So if we just add one more 5 to get to 9, then we know it's 45. Okay? And that's a good way to check your answer too. If you have anything times 5, you're like, wait a second, this is an even number. It should end in a 0. Wait a minute, this is an odd number. It should end in a 5. Okay? Okay. The 6's. The 6's, in my opinion, are pretty easy if you know your 5's. If you know your 5's, you're just adding one more group. And especially for the even numbers that you're adding to, it's pretty simple. So for example, if you have 8 times 5 times 6, that's 48. And we know that 8 times 5 equals 40. So since we have 5 groups of 8 here, but this one's 6 groups of 8, that means we need one more group of 8, which is just 8. So we can add 40 plus 8, and that equals 48, and that gives us this answer. See? So we can do that with all of our numbers for the 6's. If we have 7 times 6, okay, the 7's are the ones that I always say, you just have to know them. Okay, you just have to, 7's are kind of out there on their own. They don't really have any tricks or tips. You just have to know the 7's. And I know that this is 42, but if you didn't know that, you could still, if you know 7 times 5, right? And you know, wait, this is an odd number, so it has to end in a 5, and the one below it is a 6, and 6 times 5, half of 6 is a 3, so then this is a 3, okay? So 35, and then you add 7 to 35, then you'll get the 42. So if you know your 5's, you can still add and get to your 6's, okay? You just add one more group to the 6, and it's easy if it's way easier if it's just an even number, because if you have 6 times 6, for example, this is an even number, so you can just do 6 times 5 equals 30. So then you just add another 6, and it's 36. Okay. Okay. When we get to the 7's, what do we have to do? Know them. So you just write them down. 7 times 1 equals 7. 7 times 2. You don't even have to do the 7 times 1 because you already know that. So let's do 7 times 2 equals 14. 7 times 3 equals 21. 7 times 4 equals 28. 7 times 5 equals 35. 7 times 6 equals 42. 7 times 7 equals 49. 7 times 8 equals 56. and 7 times 9 equals 63. Okay? So you just write them down. This is the doubles that we went over. Okay? Multiplying by 2 is knowing your doubles. So 7 plus 7 is 14. This one, 7 times 5, 35. We already know that 6 times 5 is 30. So we add one more 5 to get to the 35. Okay? Over here, we know that's 35 because we know how to do our 5s. We add one more 7, we get to the 42. Okay, the 7s, we just have to know them. We know that 7 times 8 is 5, 6 because 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay? And then now we'll get to the 7 times 9, but we should know those too with another trick. But we'll do the 8s now. Okay? And the 8s, the easy way to do the 8s and the tricks that you should know is that you just can subtract one group from the 9s that you should know. Okay? And the way that that works is if you have 8, first of all, this is something that I want everyone to know because there are 2 different multiplication times tables that get very confused. This one and this one. And a lot of kids don't understand which one goes with which one. And I always say the numbers that add up to 9 are the correct ones for 9, and the other one is for 8. So for example, 6 plus 3 equals 9. 6 plus 3 equals 9, so 63 is in the 9s times tables. Okay, so that would be an answer for the 9s times tables. 64, 6 and 4 equals 10. So that would not be a part of the 9s times table. So you just, by default, because it doesn't equal 9, you know that that's the answer to 8 times 8, not 9 times 7. Okay, so don't let those confuse you. These two have to equal up to 9. When you add 6 plus 3, it should be 9. If you think it's 64 by mistake and you add 6 plus 4, you know that that's 10, so that's incorrect. Okay, but back to the 8s. 8 times 4, for example, is 32, right? But the only way to really, if you have 9 times 4, okay, 9 times 4, then the only way for you to really, that would be 36, but the only way for you to go back would just be to go back one group of 4. So see, if you have 9 times 4, it's 36, and if you subtract, because remember this is one less group of 4, if you subtract 4 from this, then you get 32. So that's how you can do that. If you forget your times tables, this is a great little trick to use so that you don't forget them. Okay, so you can still answer the questions and get them correct. So you know that 9 times 4 is 36. So then you take away one group of the 4. So this is 9 groups of 4 minus one group of 4 will give you the 8 groups of 4 because 8 is 1 less than 9. So it's one group less. This is 9 groups of 4 equals 36. So 8 groups of 4 is one group less. And then that gives us the 32. Okay. So that's how you can find your 8s. You just take away one group from what you know that 9 is. And the 9s are my favorite because those are, there's a nice little trick that you can do without using your fingers in your mind that helps you always know your 9s from here until forever. You will never forget your 9s if you know this trick. Okay, so 9 times 2 equals, the way we find this out, we either know our doubles, 9 plus 9 equals 18, so we know that, or we do this, 2 minus 1. This is the number that's being multiplied by 9. So we subtract 1 from it. We do 2 minus 1. And that gives us our first digit here. So 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay? Now for our second digit, we have to say 1 plus, because that's the one number that we have here, and these two digits should equal 9 when we add them. So we have 1 plus blank equals 9. Okay? And we know that that's 8. So then this is 18. Okay, and that works all the way, where does it work? It works all the way, I think, to 9, from 9 times 0 all the way to 9 times 10. So 0 through 10 that you're multiplying your 9s times, that works. So we have 9 times 8. What do we do first? Okay, what are we multiplying by 9? We're multiplying the 8 by 9. So if we do 8 minus 1, that gives us 7. So that's our first digit, is 7. Then we say 7 plus what equals 9? Because these two digits have to add up to equal 9. So 7 plus 2 equals 9. So we know it's 72. So that's why the 9s are easier to get, and then we can always take away a group of that, of whatever we're multiplying by the 9s, or of that, we can always take one group away to get to the 8s, because these are pretty easy to get with this kind of, with this little trick. So let's do another one. Okay, we'll do 9 times 7. Okay, we have a 7 here. Did I already do the 7? I think I already did the 7, so I'll do another one. 9 times 4. Okay, equals, we have two digits. Okay, 9 times 4. We have 4, so we're going to take that number and we're going to do minus 1. So 4 minus 1 gives us 3. So we have found our first number. Okay, now we have the 3, so we do 3 plus what number equals 9? Because both of these digits have to equal 9, and we have our first digit. Now we need to find 3 plus what equals 9? We know that that is 6. So it's 36. Okay, so that's a really cool trick for the 9s, because you can just do it in your head, because you can always, even if you have 9 times 4, you can just say what number comes before 4 if you don't want to have like a bunch of little mini subtraction problems and stuff in your mind. Then you can just do, when you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, which number comes before 4? That's a 3. Okay, and then 3 plus what equals 9? And that's a 6. And the way to really know these and to do these quickly, the way I'm doing them, is to also know your factors. Okay, so when you take an addition, when you do addition and subtraction in first grade, second grade, what they're really trying to teach you is, and sometimes students see this pattern and sometimes you don't, and a lot of people don't really teach it. They just assume that students will see the pattern on their own, and if you don't see the pattern on your own, because some of our brains just don't work that way, so we don't see the pattern on our own, then it can really just make a lot of things difficult later on in life. So knowing your factors, so if you know your addition factors from 1 to 10, then that will really help you in your math journey. So for example, the 9s, the reason we can do, okay, 3 plus what equals 9 is because I know my factors. I know that, not multiplication, but I know that 9 plus 1 equals, so this is how I like to put them. I like to put a 9 here, and then I put all my factors, and I like to start with 0 plus 9, 1 plus 8, because it's easy if you write them down like this, because you're going up here, you're going down this way. So the next one's going to be 2, and the next one here is going to be 7, because this one's going lower, this one's going higher. 3 plus 6, 4 plus 5, and then this one becomes 5, and this one becomes 4. So these numbers are repeating, so then we don't need to go any further, because we already have all of our factors just up till 4 plus 5, that's all we need. Okay, so writing these out are so important if you don't already know them, because it will help you so much. So if I know all of these, then if I'm doing 9 times 9, okay, then I know that, okay, my first digit will be 8, because 9 minus 1 equals 8. And then I know that my second one will be 1, because 8 plus 1 equals 9. So I don't even have to think about it. That's, you know, it makes it really simple when you know these factors. If I have 9 times 6 equals, then here's my two digits. And then if I have 9 times 6, I know that The number before 6 is 5 when I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I know that 5 plus 4 equals 9. So it's 54. Okay, so that's why that's helpful. And it's also helpful when you're doing any of the other numbers too, because if you have something like factors of 5 are, I like to do the bigger ones, but factors of 7 are 0 plus 7, 1 plus 6, 2 plus 5, 3 plus 4, and then they repeat. So these are all the factors of 7. So when you have something like this, you have something like, 17 minus 13, you know that's 4. You don't even have to think about it because you know this problem right here, you know your factors right there, 3 and 4. Okay? If you have something like, and that goes for all the numbers. So if you have that, you can just jot down the answer really quickly, and then later on you're not counting on your fingers and, you know, wasting time with that when you have way harder math problems to work on. Okay, so like I said, these factors, 1 through 10, knowing the factors of all these numbers, the addition factors, is something that usually doing so many of these problems, many students just pick up on these facts. They just know, oh, okay, 2 plus 5 is 7, you know? So then if you see something like, 17 minus, 5, then you know that that's just going to come down and this is a 2. Because you know that 5 plus 2 is 7. So things like 5 plus 2 is 7, 2 plus 5 equals 7, 7 minus 2 equals 5, and 7 minus 5 equals 2. These are things that are so important to know, and this is knowing the factors. Okay, so just practice those so that you can know them. That, especially your 9s, that will help you with your multiplication, so that you know your 9s. Knowing those factors will help you be able to do that trick with the 9s. Okay, and I guess I could go over the other two just in case, but the other ones are, 10s, and anything times 10 is so if you do, for example, 9 times 10, then all you're doing really is you're doing 9 times 1, which is just 9, and then 9 times 0, which is 0. So it's just the number and then putting the 0 behind it. It's a combination of 1 and 0. So if you do 9 times 1, it equals 9. And then if you do 9 times 0, it equals 0. So it's just a combination of those two. So 9 times 1 is 9, 9 times 0 is 0. So 9 times 10, you just put the 0 behind whatever number you're multiplying by. So if you have 8 times 10, it's just 8 with a 0 behind it. If you do 6 times 10, it's just 6 with a 0 behind it. And in the same breath, 9 times 11 is like seeing 2 mirrors. So imagine here you are, and you're looking at yourself, and you're like, oh wow, I look so pretty in the mirror, or handsome. And then here's another mirror. You're like, oh gosh, I look pretty in that one too, or handsome in that one too. Then how many times are you seeing yourself? 1, 2. You're seeing yourself twice. So, and this is yourself. So when you look at yourself, you see exactly yourself. You don't see anything else. You only see you. So you see yourself here, and then you see yourself again. So it's just the same number twice. Okay? And that is all for this video.